Hello everybody. Today we are going to be working on the beaded feathers for this activity. This is the materials that is going to be provided in the kit. You are going to have your feather. You are going to have a strip of leather, some string provided, 2 colors, and a needle. And what else you're going to need for this activity is a sharp pair of scissors as well to later on cut leather. So to begin, what we're going to need to do is we're going to grab our string. I like to use about 2 arm lengths, so 1, 2, and then to begin we are going to thread our needle. And then at the end of this needle, or at the end of the string, you are going to need to tie a knot at the bottom. I like to do approximately 2 knots, so it doesn't go through the leather quite as easy. Once we have the knot at the end of our string, we are going to grab our needle. We're going to grab our piece of leather, and you can decide which side you want to use. There's the rough side or the smooth side. I personally would like to use the smooth side. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin wrapping the leather around our feather. And you're going to want to do this very tightly as well. You're going to wrap it all the way around as best as you can, until you have no more material left on the other side. So it'll look something like that. So I'm going to grab my needle, and then I am going to puncture through both sides of the leather so the knot will catch both of them. As the knot catches, I'm going to put my needle down, and then I am going to begin tightly wrapping the string around the feather. And I am going to continue to hold my leather and pinch it together the best I can. And as I'm going around, I'm going to tightly pull the string and wrap. And as we're doing this, it's going to cover up our stem of the feather so that doesn't show when we do our beadwork. I like to go in like a spiral motion, and I will go all the way down 1 time until I reach the end of the stem. So it's going to look something like that, while trying to hide our stem at the back. Well, I like to do this a couple times, so I will spin it around at the bottom to end it off, and then I will start making my way back up so it looks like almost like a crisscross. And then I'm going to go all the way up and then I'm going to do the same thing. I will wrap it a couple times at the top, and then I will start making my way back down again until I reach the very end. Okay, so once I've reached the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to knot it. And how I knot my string is I like to go through a small little piece of the leather. And then I'm going to pull slowly until I get a little hoop here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through that hoop in the same direction twice. So I'm going to go through it 1 time, come back again, and go through the same direction. And then I'm going to pull it through. Oops. And then I'm just going to pull really tight. And it's going to create our knot at the bottom. Once when we have our portion of our leather intact, we are going to begin our beadwork. So what I like to do after I do my knot is I like to get close to the end of the string. I like to get to the bottom of the end of the string here on the stem, so once when we begin our beadwork, it's going to hide our string at the bottom here, so that's not visible in our beadwork. So what I'm going to do is, you need to start off with an uneven number, or an odd number of beads. So I'm going to guesstimate how many. It's going to be different with each stem with the thickness of the leather. So it needs to be an odd number for the beads. So I'll start off with, let's say, 17. So I'll pick 1. Just double check here that we're 17. And once when we have our odd number of beads on our string, we are going to thread it all the way down. And then what we're going to do at this part is we're just going to line up our beads at the bottom, and we're just going to twist. And we're going to see if the beads make it all the way around our feather. So by that I have too much beads. So 17 is too much. So since it has to be an odd number, it's going to have to be 15 beads. So I'm going to have to remove 2. So since I removed the 2 beads, we're going to start off with 15 beads instead, since it has to be an odd number. And that's going to make it around our feather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my beads, and then our first bead that we put on, we're going to go through the first bead, and then I'm going to pull all the way through, and then it's going to make our first row around our stem. And in order to tighten this, what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 beads at a time. So I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to pull. And then as I pull, it's going to tighten our beads. So you want to make sure you pull tight as you go. So now I'll go through the next 3. Making sure you're pulling tight. Three more. And as we go around and pull tight, it is going to create like our knot for the beginning of our beadwork. So you just want to keep going around 3 beads at a time until you can feel your beadwork become stiff and you know it's not going to go anywhere. I like to go around approximately 2 or 3 times to ensure that the beads are going to stay in place. What I also like to do as well, I can go on the side and I can just go through a little piece of our leather and then pull. And then we will go through, we will follow through with our next 3 beads. And you can do that technique as well to ensure that your beadwork is going to stay in place. Just a little piece of leather and follow through with the next 3. Now that our beadwork is nice and tight on there, we are going to begin our next row. So today for this, we are going to be learning the peyote stitch. So with this technique, you're going to be picking up one bead at a time while skipping one bead. So I'm going to add one bead, and as you can see, my string is coming out this bead. So we add one and skip one. So we added our first bead, our one bead, and then we're gonna skip our first bead and jump to the second. And we're just gonna go through that single bead. And you're gonna pull all the way through. And you can push it up as you go to ensure that it is going to go through the next hole, the next row. So it's gonna look something like that. So then you pick one up, pick up one bead. As you can see where my string is, I'm going to skip my next bead and continue on to the second one. And I'm gonna go through that single bead. And I'm going to continue this method all the way around our feather. So pick up one, skip one, and just go through one bead. And then you're going to continue this all the way around until you meet back at the start. Skip one. So it's going to look something like this. It can be pushed up because we're going to be beading upwards. So it's going to look something like this. So I'm going to continue on adding my green. So I'm going to add one bead, and now I'm going to go through the first or the second row. The beads that we just put on, we are going to be going through those. So you're technically going to be skipping a bead as well. So we're going to go through our beads that we just laid down, and we're going to pull tight as we go. Add one, and we'll go through our next bead. Add one, then we're going to go through the beads that we just added. One bead at a time. Oh, that one needs to be pushed up. Oh, we're here. Somebody is anyways. Tight. And then that is our next row. So now we have 2 rows intact.